Good evening. If we could have everybody's attention, please. This is wonderful that we have an overflow crowd. So good evening, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Plymouth area, welcome. The League is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights at the local, state, and national levels. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the sacred land of the Wampanoag Nation. We honor the Herring Pond Wampanoag Nation. The Herring Pond Wampanoag people as the original stewards of this place now known as Plymouth. And we honor all Wampanoag tribes, along with the countless other indigenous peoples who traveled these lands for centuries before us. As we acknowledge many historical injustices, we may keep the first peoples of this land in our hearts and minds as we discuss issues affecting these valuable members of our community and their ancestral homelands today. Tonight's forum was planned and is presented by dedicated volunteer members of the Voter Services Committee. Thank you to all of these members for making this event happen. Serving as our moderator this evening, Mary O'Connor is a League member from the Cape Cod area. She is a very active League member and has served in the moderator role for many area leagues, including our last forum in August. We invited her back. Mary, can you take the podium, please?
Thank you, Kate, and good evening. I'm honored to serve as your moderator for this candidates forum. Election day, if you haven't heard, is November 5th, 2024. You have the option to vote early through noon on November 1st, 2024, or to use a mail-in ballot. Tonight we will be hearing from a panel of two candidates for state senate. They are Dylan Fernanades and Mathew J. Muratore. A panel of candidates for state representative. Two candidates are running in the 1st Plymouth District. They are Michelle Badger and Jesse G. Brown. Two candidates are running in the 12th Plymouth District. They are Kathleen R. LaNatra and Eric Meschino. A panel of 4 candidates for county commissioner. You may vote for up to 2 of them. They are Gregory M. Hanley, Rhonda L. Nyman, Anthony Thomas O'Brien Sr., and Jared Lewis Valanzola. I reviewed our procedures with the candidates earlier, and each candidate has agreed to act in accordance with them. They'll each have 2 minutes to answer a question and 2 minutes for a closing statement. The League drew lots at its last meeting to determine who would answer the first question for each panel. The remaining questions will be answered in a random order by a grid which has been designed by Leagues of Women Voters. Except the Senate race, there's 2 of them, right? It's just going to go back and forth and back and forth, okay. Questions have been prepared in advance by the League and are also being gathered from tonight's in-person audience. Please write questions for the candidates on the index cards. Raise your hand and a League member will come to collect them from you. Please write Senate, House, or Commissioner at the top of the card, indicating the panel of candidates your question is for. I know the cards are color-coded, but in case you don't have the right color, just write the panel at the top. Questions must be addressed and be referenced to all candidates. We will not ask a particular candidate a question different from another. They must apply to issues or qualifications for their position. Volunteers from the league will review the questions for legibility, clarity, and applicability to all candidates. I got to be able to read them, okay? Make sure they're kind of legible. The timekeeper and the assistant are here with a countdown clock. So they'll get a signal when they're 30 seconds from the end, and at 2 minutes, a stop, a red block will be held up, at which point they may finish their sentence unless I think it's going on too long, and then we'll just say thank you and move on to the next candidate. Local Scene is broadcasting the event live and will rebroadcast it on local government channels. So you're on TV, okay? Please remain quiet throughout the forum, no clapping or cheering or calling out. You are welcome to clap for the candidates after they finish their closing statements. Campaign materials such as palm cards, brochures, signs, banners, including T-shirts, are to be kept outside the building. This helps to ensure the nonpartisan informational tone of the forum. Please silence your cell phones, wearable electronics, anything that could beep or come out with a song. All right. We might sing along if it does. Please treat all candidates fairly. Now down to brass tacks. The candidates for the Senate, Dylan and Matt. We're going to start question 1 with Dylan, followed by Matt. What makes you the best candidate for the job?
Sure. Well, thank you, and thank you to the League for having me. I'm Dylan Fernandes. I've been in the legislature for 7.5 years. In that time, I've passed 30 bills into law, some really meaningful and impactful legislative policy, brought women's reproductive care to the region that I represent, and brought millions of dollars back to my district for a whole host of different projects, but especially supporting education, environmental issues, housing affordability. So I have a real track record of being able to deliver for the people I represent and deliver in the legislature. Only candidate running to pass big statewide legislation. I think that's an important piece. And serve currently as the vice chair of the Committee on the Environment, where advocate for a lot of issues around clean water. We passed $1 billion clean water fund that we keep money in the community, and it goes to funding ponds and rivers and oceans and the like to make sure that that is clean. That is a huge deal. We can create something like that here in Plymouth as well. We passed the Seasonal Communities Act, which is a really big piece on addressing housing in our communities, especially for the middle class. We have a lot of people in the middle class who are struggling to afford housing, and this is a bill that has housing specific for our area where we have a seasonal economy, and it allows municipalities to fund directly housing for teachers, firefighters, police officers, the people in the community that we need to sustain and make it a safe and vibrant place to live. So those are some of the issues I've worked on, some of my experience, and I think we really need someone with that experience who brings energy to this and can deliver for us as the next state senator. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the League and you, Mary, for moderating this. So as most people know in Plymouth, I've been the state rep here for 10 years. Prior to that, I was actually on the Board of Selectmen for 5 years. 2 of those years I was chair. And before that, from 2005 to 2010, I was on the Finance Committee here in town. And 2 of those years, I was actually vice chair. So I have the municipal experience as well as the state experience, but I also have a business background as well. So I've owned and operated child daycare centers, co-owned it with my business partner for 20 years. Also an owner of a healthcare company. We do senior living healthcare consulting. We've owned that for about 5 or 6 years now. So I think you can see that I bring a wealth of knowledge to the job, not just municipal experience and state experience, but also business background as well. So I think that makes me uniquely qualified for this job. I'll be able to go in hitting the ground running. I've been able to, for one community, it's just the town of Plymouth, pass 21 bills, working with the folks here in the community. I brought tens of millions of dollars to the town of Plymouth over the last 10 years. Some of them are, a lot of them do have to do with the waterfront, $1 million for the marine facility, $3 million for the Long Beach seawall, another $1 million for the town wharf bulkhead, and the list goes on and on and on. A lot of money we brought in for tourism and cultural things as well, and we don't do it alone. None of us do it alone. We do it in conjunction with our colleagues in the House and the Senate, and we do things with the folks that live in the community as well. And that's the one thing that I'm known for at the state level, is working across the aisle to get things done.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Matt and then Dylan. Any ideas for solutions to this scenario? We live in affordable housing, the 40R apartment complex in Plymouth. We have had rent increases since moving in totaling over $800 per month. At some point, what was affordable will become unaffordable unless the formula is changed using HUD guidelines. Any ideas for solutions?
Sure. First of all, housing is probably the number one issue that we hear. We've been able to knock over 17,000 doors during this campaign, and one of the biggest things we hear is about affordability, and particularly affordability for housing as well. And it's all about supply and demand. And one of the things, we've actually about 200,000 units of housing behind in the Commonwealth. And so we have, in the last couple of sessions, been able to pass some housing bills. Recently, we just passed a housing bill in the House that will create a lot of grant opportunities, a lot of opportunities for housing of affordable housing units, taking refurbished buildings and refurbishing the housing. But I do think the formulas need to be looked at as well, from the federal level and the state level, to help it create more affordability as well. But it's really about supply and demand and getting more housing units in place. The 40R that I think they're talking about is in the Cordage area. We actually got that workforce money back in 2014, working with the delegation to start that whole project because of the train station being there. And the train is not scheduled anymore, so that's an issue as well. And we've got to deal with that as well to try to get the train back into Cordage as well. But again, the more housing we can build, the more we'll be able to the prices will start coming down. But again, this housing bond bill that was well over $4 billion is going to help go a long way in helping with that.
Thank you. Dylan?
Thank you. Yeah, look, lack of affordable housing is going to erode our communities faster than the ocean will if we don't address it. And, people of all ages can't afford to live here. The biggest out-migration, there's been a lot of talk about out-migration in the state. Those people actually look like me. They're, late 20s to early 40s, and they're leaving the state in droves, and they say the biggest reason they're leaving is because of lack of affordability. Housing chief among them, childcare right under that. So we need to address this housing issue. I couldn't buy the house that I own today. And it's not just about buying, it's about renting, as I think the question alluded to. A lot of people are spending over 50% of their income on their rent, and a lot of people are very housing insecure right here in Plymouth. So we have to address this. We passed the largest housing bill in a generation, over $5 billion housing bill. We just got it passed, so it's going to take some time for it to take effect, but it's the biggest investment in housing in decades here in Massachusetts. It puts a lot more towards production. It frees up people's property rights by allowing accessory dwelling units statewide, which is another really important piece in terms of building housing made for first-time home buyers or seniors who want to downsize, and other folks, as provisions around veterans housing that is really important. And so we have a lot more to do. I think the focus on building new housing should be building it on places that we can redevelop and not tearing down trees, but places that we can redevelop. I think that should be the first step. And this is an important issue in the race. I supported the housing bill, voted for it. Matt's the only politician, Democratic or Republican, in our entire region to vote against it. And so I do think this is a really big issue. I think it's really important our next state senator is supportive of making our communities livable and affordable for the people who live here.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Please hold your applause, and please refrain from referring to other candidates. Question 3, we'll go with Dylan. Massachusetts law allows for an abortion for any reason up to 24 weeks of pregnancy and other circumstances. Should this law be changed, and how?
No, I support women's right to reproductive freedom in our state. And I will always support women's right to make decisions about the health care of their own body. I think women should have bodily autonomy, and supportive of that right. And so, I think this is an issue that's really important. It's something that is under attack in this country. And in preparation for the Supreme Court, I would view them as an extremist Supreme Court decision to strike down Roe v. Wade in our country. In the legislature, we passed the Roe Act, which codifies Roe into law in Massachusetts. Really important that we did that because we had all these antiquated laws on the books. So if we hadn't done that by the time the Supreme Court made their decision, women would not have access to reproductive care in Massachusetts. And so it was important that we codify Roe. And then this is also a difference in legislative votes. I supported the Roe Act and voted for it. Matt voted against that legislation. And also, when I first got elected, I have a track record of being supportive of women's access to this care. Women on the Cape didn't have access to reproductive care when I first got elected. They actually had to go to Providence, Rhode Island as the closest place. So that's a level of access you actually see in like in Alabama or Mississippi, out of state, hours and hours to drive, take a day off work. And through legislative funding that we got Health Imperatives, which also operates here in Plymouth, they were allowed to and able to open up that service on the Cape for the first time in nearly 2 decades.
Thank you. Would the timekeeper please add 30 seconds to Matt's time? So it'll be 2 minutes and 30 seconds, okay? Because of the references to your voting record, which
Thank you.
did not make yourself.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So the question again is, Massachusetts law allows for an abortion for any reason up to 24 weeks of pregnancy and other circumstances. Should this law be changed, and how?
So as my opponent just said, Roe v. Wade was codified here in Massachusetts in 2020, and let me just clarify why I didn't vote for it. And actually, the vote was 107 to 50. And as you know, there are 24 Republicans. So there are a number of Democrats who didn't vote for this either. And the number one reason was that it reduced the parental consent from 18 to 16 years old. Now, I'm a father of 6 daughters, and I'm a healthcare person as well. And we didn't change any other healthcare. If I had to bring my 17-year-old daughter to the doctors and she needs some treatment for something, I have to sign consent. My wife has to sign consent for it. But for an abortion in Massachusetts, you can get it at 16 without a parental consent. So I didn't think that was right, so I did not vote for that. However, in 2022, when we did the SHIELD law, and the SHIELD law was having women from all over the country able to come into Massachusetts, because there's other parts of the country that they can't get abortions. So we actually codified that here in Massachusetts that did allow for women to come to Massachusetts from other parts of the country to actually have reproduction care here. And we were able to pass that SHIELD law again in 2022 to the current law, and I did vote for that one. So I'm not sure, this isn't, in talking to a couple of my daughters as well, they wonder why Dylan keeps bringing this up, because it kind of, they're confused by it because they think they don't have the protections here, but they do. So I just want to make sure people are aware. In Massachusetts, there is protection. And it's sort of a national issue, and I don't think we should be scaring women, particularly young women, and getting them confused of what we're doing here in Massachusetts, but it has been codified.
Thank you. Again, I'll remind the candidates, no references to each other, so please add 15 seconds, timekeeper. Please add 15 seconds to Dylan's
You
time
got
for the
30.
response to
I
this
only have
answer.
15.
I know it's hard, but we need to
It
keep
is hard
this
when you get
going.
attacked. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You are both experienced legislators, and Matt, you're answering this question first.
Yep.
What is your voting record regarding members of our trans community, and how did you vote on the climate bill?
So the transgender bill was in 2016, and it's one of those bills that I did a lot of research on and went back and forth on. I remember going to the schools, talking to kids, talking to guidance counselors, just going everywhere and really talking to people about it. And it was a very hard decision to make at the end. But at the end of it, I voted against it. And the reason being is, we represent everyone. And when bills like this come out, I listen to the constituents. And we got less than 10 emails, phone calls, and texts that told me, please vote for it. And there were close to 1,000 emails that said, and phone calls and texts that said, please don't vote for this. And at the time, it was the bathroom issue was the big issue. So that one, I did vote against that one back then. Obviously, the law is, has been in place for a while now, and some of the horror stories that were being talked about back then have not come to fruition. You said the climate bill was the other one?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was the climate bill. The climate bill, that was the bill that we had at, oh God, I forget when it was. It was towards the end of the session. But what that is, as a former municipal leader in this community for 10 years prior to being a state rep, there was a lot of local issues taken away from them. So the municipal people, the people that run the town, the people that vote in the town, couldn't make a lot of decisions. So there were way too many issues in there for that. So that's why I voted against that.
Thank you. And this, you're adding 15 seconds on to Dylan's response. Dylan.
Sure. So I wasn't in the legislature at the time of the trans bill was passed, but what was it? I mean, this is a bill. This was legislation. I worked before running for office. I worked in the Civil Rights Division of the Attorney General's office. We enforced the state's civil rights law. Transgender people were not included in the state's civil rights law. So any public accommodation, coffee shop, movie theater, restaurant, was allowed to discriminate against trans people and ban them from going to the theater, the coffee store, just for being who they are. And that, to me, is just fundamentally wrong. That's not who Massachusetts is. That's not who we are. We should treat other humans like other human beings. That, to me, is so fundamental. So I actually worked in the Civil Rights Division of the Attorney General's office and advocating for the legislature to pass it. And I'm glad, ultimately, I believe the legislature did the right thing in passing that bill, and I certainly would have supported and have been an advocate for it and supportive of the LGBT community. When it comes to the climate bill, I voted to support the climate bill. Look, you guys are on a whole lot of coast here. The impacts that you're seeing currently and will see in the future are going to be really hard on Plymouth and are going to cost the town a lot of money. And so really important that we're doing our part, yes, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's important. Also bringing climate jobs to this region. That's actually been a bright spot as the number of climate jobs that have come in here, whether it's for solar or wind. They're coming to southeastern Massachusetts, not just up in Boston. They're actually mostly down in this area. And the last thing on this is we need to take steps to adapt to climate change and talk about and focus on coastal resilience, focus on how our coasts are going to change, what the impacts are going to be to Plymouth and our communities, and how we can mitigate them.
Thank you. Next question, Dylan will go first, followed by Matt. It's our belief you have opposed the discharge of radioactive water into Cape Cod Bay by Holtec. What will you specifically do to advance this policy? Dylan.
Sure. Yes, very opposed to this. This to me is we really need to hold Holtec accountable for what I view as environmental and public health negligence, and make sure that this place is decommissioned in a responsible way that protects our environment and supports the health of Plymouth residents. And so I'm actually one of 19 interveners currently, along with the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, there's fishermen groups in the area who have intervened in the DEP decision. There's a DEP case right now, right? So the DEP ruled that Holtec cannot dump this wastewater into the bay. Holtec's appealing that. So now it goes into this like independent kind of arbitrator of sorts within DEP. And so I'm a party to that case to make sure we stop Holtec from dumping and make sure that we uphold the DEP decision. And that's really important. Yes, for the reasons that I mentioned, but also for economic reasons. This is a tourist community, and we need to make sure that we are able to sell it and market it as the beautiful destination it is with the pristine water that it has. And so, so important that we make sure and prevent this from happening from an economic perspective. And then it's also a big fisheries issue. When we're talking about selling our scallops here, when we're talking about selling our oysters, when we're talking about selling all those other products, really important issue, and that's why I've partnered with the fishing community on this as well. So I'm going to keep pushing on this. I'm a leader on it. I'm one of the few people intervening in this case, and so we gotta make sure the DEP upholds this decision. I think it was the right one.
Thank you. Matt.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been involved with this issue for 20 years now, with the plant when it was open and when it was being closed down, and still have been. And the issue on the water is something that we as legislators, both sides of the aisle, have been united on for a while now. And we don't do this alone. We do this as a group, and we have been very strong with DEP, which is, I believe, one of the main reasons why they voted against Holtec to discharge the water. And there are economic issues with this. There's a big perception out there, particularly in the fishing industry, and that it would hurt the economy if it actually was discharged in the water. So we've been working with Holtec for years now on this and trying to get them to get it trucked out of here. Yes, it's more expensive, but that money that they have, it's money that came from us as ratepayers. So there's no reason they can't use that money to actually truck it out of here. And we will continue as a strong delegation to work with the administration and be sure that happens and it doesn't get discharged. You know, one of the things that we have done here is put together what's called the NDCAP. It's a community commission that meets actually in this room. And that came about because of the leadership that we had in our delegation here in Plymouth, because we wanted to be sure that the state got involved with the decommissioning. Because up till that time, everyone always said, oh, it's the federal government, it's the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the state can't do it. We couldn't get any administration to do it. But we finally got Governor Baker's ear and was able to get him to form this commission to say, yes, we do have a say. And that's why the water discharge was stopped, because the state did get involved. They finally dipped their feet in the water, no pun intended, to actually get that done.
Thank you. You can't believe it, but we're already at closing statements.
Aw.
Oh. Matt, you're up first for your closing statement.
Sure. Thank you, Mary, and thank you to the League again for doing this. First of all, just to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the housing bond bill, I did not vote for because it was 4:30 in the morning on August 1st, and we were voting on a bill that wasn't even in our hands. We couldn't even read anything. There was nothing on paper. So, but after looking at it, after we found it was passed and looking at it, there are a lot of great things in there, as we discussed. The other thing I wanted to add about the climate bill, if I may, is during that week of the climate bill debate, everyone remember the turbines that fell into the water that week? That was the same week. So a lot of us felt, let's hold off on the climate bill right now until let's see what happens with the blades. So just to clarify those two things. First of all, I want to again thank you for the opportunity. It's been a great honor to serve this community for the last 20 years. And, you know, again, I think I'm uniquely qualified to go to the next step now. I worked my way up over the years from the Finance Committee, the Select Board, the State Rep, and now going to State Senate. There's so much work we need to do, like solving the migrant crisis, like creating tax cuts and incentives to make Mass more affordable and competitive. We're no longer competitive here. Great place to live, but too expensive to live. We need to increase mental health and substance abuse services. That's my background. And we've done a lot of great work on mental health. There's a lot more work to do, and I want to be there to actually help do it on the Senate side. We need to support small businesses better than what we're doing. They are the backbones in our economy, and they are actually taking the burden of all these taxes that are on, and we need to cut some of these back, like the unemployment tax and some others. And again, protecting our environment and Cape Cod Bay and the bridges, that it's important to this side of the bridge, this side of the, as well as the other side of the bridge, and creating meaningful, affordable, and workforce housing that we talked about. So again, I thank you so much. I really appreciate your support and your vote for November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go. Come on. Come on, let's go. He doesn't want to. No, he doesn't want to. Welcome to Plymouth. Welcome to Plymouth.
Thank you all for paying attention. The Honorable Dylan Fernandes.
Wow. All right. There we go.
It's a private joke, we'll tell you later.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad I got the opportunity to speak. Look, I'm Dylan Fernandes. I'm a lifelong resident of our district. Family came here from the Azores 4 generations ago. They settled here on the Cape as strawberry farmers. Life was never easy for them. My dad's family actually grew up in really extreme poverty, but in this really compelling American dream story, started a small business, landscaping company, worked to see it grow, witnessed the reward of his hard work when I went off to college, an opportunity he and his 8 brothers and sisters never had. And so I got an undergraduate degree in economics in Charleston and a master's in public administration at Harvard. And so I got involved in politics and public service to give back to the community and country and commonwealth that I love and has given me and my family so much. And you know, I've been doing the work in the past 7.5 years, passed 30 bills into law, brought back millions of dollars for our district, brought back women's reproductive care to the region. I've been a leader in preserving and protecting the environment and clean water. As a local, public school graduate, I know how important housing is. I know how important our public schools are and supporting them and supporting our kids and teachers. As I mentioned earlier, only person to support the Roe Act for women's reproductive freedom. And it's really important that we have someone who can deliver for us, because decisions made in this district in the next few years will decide our fate for the next century. None bigger probably than the biggest bridge infrastructure project in the country, right in the heart of this district, but also around Holtec and all these other issues that were asked today. So look, I was born here, I was raised here, I love our region. I ask for your vote and I ask for your support this November. So thank you.
Thank you both very much. Panel are candidates from District 1 and District 12 for the State House of Representatives. Now, which are you voting for, District 1 or District 12? In the past, you may have voted in one precinct, and it may be a different one now because of the 2020 census. So we encourage everyone to check with the town clerk's office as to what district they should be voting in, okay? Because your precinct might have changed, which could have affected your district. The easiest way to tell you right now is that the 12th district includes precincts 1, 2, 3, 5, and 13. The 1st district is for everybody else. Okay? The 12th district includes other towns as well. Kingston. Would you press the button and state the towns again, please?
So
Eric?
it's 1, 2, 3, 5, and 13 in Plymouth, all of Kingston, all of Plimpton, precincts 1 and 2A in Halifax, 3 in Pembroke,
Yep.
and 1 and 5A in Middleborough.
Thank you very much. The order for the first question will be Michelle, followed by Jesse, Eric, and Kathy. And the first question is, Michelle, what makes you the best candidate for the job?
There we go. Having grown up here, I know Plymouth deeply. I have a deep passion for Plymouth, and I've also had the honor and privilege to serve Plymouth for the last 13 years on the school committee. And through that process, I've met so many people, made connections throughout our community and on the state and county level. And I really feel that through that work, it's given me an opportunity to work across the aisle with people of diverse thoughts and perspectives, which has really impacted the way that I think. When I am coming at something, I'm always thinking about what are the unintended consequences, what are the consequences, what are we trying to accomplish, and making sure that we are including everybody in that conversation. And so I've had also the opportunity to work on a $120 million budget within our school committee. And so that has given me the tools to understand to how we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to be creative in all that we do, and that's something that I really prioritize as a school committee member. How do we look at the funds we have and use them in a way that are going to be beneficial to our community? How can we be creative with those funds and those coming up with ideas like we've been working on transportation, which I could go on for another 15 minutes about. But my experiences, my accomplishments, and my passion make me uniquely qualified for this position. I have a lot of experience that comes from all parts of our community, not just the school committee, with Plymouth No Place for Hate. So I'm really think that I am the best qualified, and I have also been knocking on doors since April. We've knocked on almost 7,000 doors to have conversations with people in our community because I care deeply about what they're going through, what we're going through together, because my perspective is different from your perspective, and I want to make sure that I can be the voice for everybody here in Plymouth.
Thank you. Jesse?
I just want to take just a couple seconds here of my time. There was a woman, State Representative Susan Williams Gifford, who passed away this week, and she was in many of these forums right here, and she died of cancer suddenly. So I'd like to just take a moment of silence because I think she was a close friend of mine, 20 years of service to this state, and she did a tremendous job. And I know she worked with Rep. LaNatra, and I know she's a tremendous woman, so I just want to take a moment of silence for her. I'll take 10 seconds of my time for that, please. Thank you. So what uniquely qualifies me is real life experience. That's what you need in this job right here. You have to have real life experience. And where does that come from? It comes from working, it comes from serving in the military, it comes from having a nonprofit, it comes from working with people. The number one job of a state representative is to listen to their constituency. You have to listen all the time. I do this every single day. This was part of my job. No matter what I've done, you have to be able to compromise. I've done that with my business aspect of life. Being able to help people, that's another huge part of this job. That's the part of the nonprofit where I've helped thousands of veterans, and that will relate into the State House. So what I come down to is you have to have real life experience, and that real life experience translates into helping all of you, because this job is not about me. At the end of the day, it's all about helping you. We've knocked on doors, we've done all the traditional stuff, but when you're going to the State House, you're not knocking on doors anymore. You want to have people that you're going to talk to on a daily basis to take care of their issues, whatever they are. And we know the most important issues, what we hear out there. It's the migrant crisis, it's affordability, it's transparency in government. These are the big issues that everybody's talking about right now. And then we can go down to the affordability, the cost of utilities, childcare. I mean, we're looking at childcare right now. It's almost a mortgage payment per month. How does a family afford that? So we need state representatives that understand that. I'm a father, so I see that also, the cost. So the real life experience is what I bring for this job.
Thank you. Eric?
Good evening, and thank you for having us. I have a unique background. Currently, I'm a commercial lobster fisherman, fiercely independent individual. I love to be out there. However, I also have a background in finance. I've worked in a firm in Manhattan where we did a lot of venture capital, stocks, bonds, you name it. I understand how this stuff works. There's a huge issue with the way we raise money in this state with taxes, and that makes things unaffordable. So as a common sense type of guy, there's very simple common sense solutions where we can come in, ease up on some regulations, and make things a bit more affordable. And I'm gonna just throw this out there right now. With Holtec, I would love to see them be good corporate citizens, because I think a great starting point would be cheaper energy. Nuclear is the greenest energy that we have. Now, I'll cut my statement right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yes, thank you, Mary. Thank you to the League for having us. And Jesse, thank you for that. She was a wonderful person, and it was very unexpected to many of us. My name's Kathy LaNatra. I've served as your state representative of 12 Plymouth District for 6 years. I'm running for my 4th term. Why I think I am the person for the job is experience. Before this, I was on the Board of Selectmen in Kingston. I was on the Recreation Commission. I was on the Affordable Housing Trust, one of the founding members of the Affordable Housing Trust. I've coached. I've been involved in this community for over 20 years. Just this year alone, I was able to bring back $1.6 million for the district. Many of that came to Plymouth. We don't do that alone, as one of my colleagues said. We do that as a delegation, and that delegation has to be bipartisan to get things done. One of my strengths is to come to consensus with people, and that's what I've done in the State House. I've worked on both sides of the aisle to come to consensus to get things done, and I really would love that opportunity to continue to work for this district. Thank you.
Thank you. The order for the next question is Eric, then Kathy, then Jesse, then Michelle. Do you support or not support the Municipal Vulnerability Program, known as MVP? Can you point to specific examples of the state and coastal community working toward this and addressing climate change? This goal, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Working toward this goal and climate change.
Well, I'm not sure I even understand your question, but with regards to climate change, it's always changing, you know. It's been changing for 4 billion years. We all know this. We're actually coming out of an ice age. As things have warmed up, humanity has gained greatly this far less death and pestilence, that sort of thing. People panic about this. In the early 1900s, there was an exploratory group that went down to the South Pole, and what they saw was the ice sheets receding at a dramatic rate. And they said by, like the 1930s, the polar ice caps are going to be gone. And then they came back. So it's a cyclical issue. I don't think the climate is actually the threat to us. I sit on the board, the Sanctuary Advisory Committee to National Marine, the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. They actually have a machine in their headquarters office that measures sea level rise. And every year, They have an electronics guy, an electrician come in and check this machine to see if it's actually working, because it hasn't moved. All of the climate predictions over the past 50 years have been wrong. Al Gore said that polar ice caps are going to be gone by now. They're still there. In terms of coastal resiliency, yes, we have a problem with erosion, but that comes with the fact that we have the ocean, which is probably the single most powerful force that we have to deal with, chewing away at our shoreline. So, yeah, we need to focus on, perfect example, Point Ollet and Hull. We need to focus on keeping those walls up and keeping our people safe.
Thank you. Kathy? Shall I read it again?
That would be helpful, thank you.
Do you support or not support the Municipal Vulnerability Program, known as MVP? Can you point to specific examples of the state and coastal community working toward this goal of addressing climate change?
Yes, so MVP program, the Municipal Vulnerability Program, it's a state program, and it's for coastal towns. And it's to help with climate change and our rising sea levels. And what that will enable those towns that take advantage of that, and Plymouth is one, is to receive some grants to help with their coastal resilience, to help with their seawalls. In order for those towns to do that, they're going to need someone in the legislature to help them.
Thank you.
So yes, I do support that. That was the answer.
Yes, thank you. Jesse?
Supporting that, it's, we talk about it all the time. We talk about the climate issue, and it's the coastal resiliency here. I mean, I live along the coast, so I see it on a day-to-day basis right here. The seawall aspect, you go up on the Manamet area, you see just erosion on a constant basis. But this has to be done in the right way. We all know what seawall construction is here, and you see a lot of those walls when there's a cause and effect for everything. And when you install these walls, the pressure keeps going on. That's why you're seeing this erosion, White Horse Beach area, and all along down White Cliffs. It's completely eroded down there. We have to mitigate that, and as Kathy said right there, you have to have somebody that's going to bring in that funding for that, and somebody that believes in that. And I believe in bringing in that money for the seawalls because it's very important.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes, I support that. I support it as well. You know what, we obviously have the extreme heat, we've got sea level rising, the acidification of our ocean, just so many things that you can talk about. But I think what's really important when we're looking at this piece of legislation is that Plymouth has been a leader in the climate action. In 2021, we declared a climate emergency due to rising temperatures, public health concerns, and the stress of local fisheries, and have been working really hard for the last couple of years to put together the Plymouth Climate Action Plan. And so that is actionable, and we need funding for that. And as somebody who has been following along and seeing what's happening with the Plymouth Action plan, I will be someone there that will support and advocate for funding to come back to Plymouth for that. We're going to need that so that we can continue to be a leader in that space, and maybe not just a leader in this part of the climate action, but maybe we can continue to be an example for how other people on the South Shore, people like us who have 37 miles of coastland, can really advocate and be change makers, and not just, we've got what we have to do. We could look in the future and say these are the things that we can do for actionable and continue to be in the forefront of the climate resiliency on the South Shore.
Thank you. The order for the next question is Jesse, Michelle, Kathy, and then Eric. The question is, regarding Governor Healy's HERO Act to expand veterans' benefits, what is one of the top needs addressed by this act? Jesse.
Well, the healthcare issue is, one of the top issues that was on that. One of the things that I'm proposing, which I think was a tremendous act, and the state of Massachusetts has tremendous benefits for our veterans. I've dealt with it for 15 years. Being a veteran myself, I've seen the timeline from when I first got out of the service in 1999, and there was really nothing there. There was no help, to today where veterans are getting a lot of help. We have tremendous VSO officers that are here. We have tremendous nonprofits that are in this town. We just had a new one open up downtown, a tremendous gentleman there that's running that, Brian Willie, that they came down here. But one thing that I see that one of the big ones that I see, and it will help our seniors because, again, affordability is one of the biggest things. In Plymouth alone, we have a property exemption tax of $400. That's excluding if whatever amount of disability that you have. But just a veteran that has zero disability has a $400, and with this HERO Act, it got put into, the town has the option to double that, so it could go to $800. I would propose even to enhance upon that, especially for seniors to stay in their homes because the rise of taxes are a lot more, and we need to keep seniors in their homes, but this is one thing where the legislation is already there, and it's very simple just to add another line to that, and I would advocate for that tremendously.
Thank you. Michelle?
Just start off by first off thanking Jesse for his service. I think it's really commendable, and so thank you for that. And being somebody who has a lot of aunts, uncles, friends, and family who are who have served. I think the HEROES Act was one of the most exciting things to come out of this last legislative session. I know, mental health is something we have for concern and a need for across our population, but nothing more so than within our veterans population, at least in those who are close to me and that those I've talked to. So for me, that I think is the most important piece of that. But we are really lucky here in Plymouth to have so many, as Jesse referred to, we just opened the Plymouth Area Veterans Service Center, which is awesome, and had an opportunity to go to that ribbon cutting and talk to some of them about the services that are going to be provided there. We are so lucky that we were selected so that we can provide those services, as well as we have a fabulous veteran service officer's office in this in our town hall, and just so many opportunities. But I really do think that we need the focus on our mental health is the most important piece that came out of that bill.
Thank you very much. Kathy?
Yes. My son is a veteran. My father was a veteran, and this is one of the proudest legislation that I have passed this past session. So it's the most comprehensive veterans legislation that we've done in decades. And there's so many benefits to our veterans. Like most of them were said here, we have our health care, we have tax cuts, we're keeping veterans in their homes. It also comes with a 5-pillar, the governor calls it 5 pillars, and really it's to end veterans' homelessness in Massachusetts. Secretary Santiago, first executive secretary we've ever had for veterans, is doing an amazing job. He's reached out to, he's identified every homeless veteran that we have in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and has reached out to them. There's places for them to go. So this legislation has come such a long way. It gives so many more benefits, so many more tax incentives, so many more tax cuts, helps with mental health as well as physical health. And I think it's a great piece of legislation.
Thank you very much. Eric?
Yeah, first of all, thank you to all the veterans anywhere, living or past. I mean, these people have made this country what it is so we can do what it is that we do. There's some great programs out here. I didn't realize this until just recently, but Massachusetts actually has one of the best VA systems in the country. And there's programs where, we have people going out and identifying homeless veterans, like Kathy mentioned, and they put them into housing. There's a small town where, it's like a village where they are housing veterans and trying to reacclimate them into daily life. So, how could anybody do anything but support this legislation? The only thing I would really add, everybody covered this pretty well. We should be doing more for them. We got to do more for these people. They put their lives on the line for all of us to protect our Constitution and our way of life. We have to do everything we can for these people. And probably chief amongst that, probably the most important thing I think we can do for them is the people that we know who are veterans, be on standby. If you get the call and you'll hear it in their voice immediately, please just spend the time, take a few minutes, go make sure they're okay, and take care of them. They're our friends, they're our family, and they deserve everything we can do for them.
Thank you very much. The order for the next question will be Kathy, followed by Eric, Michelle, and Jesse. The question is, some people advocate for reducing taxes. Would it be possible to continue to fund our programs with these reductions? Kathy?
So this term, we did pass some major tax cuts and some major tax legislation, and I've been asked this question before. So what the tax cuts do is it increases the senior circuit breaker, and we all know that our seniors are struggling, and I think that's very important. It also does the estate tax. We doubled that because, as we know, the prices of homes have just multiplied phenomenally. So that's $1 million. We went up to $2 million, which I think is really important. So we have initiated some tax cuts, and again, this hasn't been done in decades, this legislation. So yes, we will be able to, like anything, we have to make some cuts from some fat here and there, but we'll be able to supply the needed sources for our residents.
Thank you. Eric?
So, yes, is the answer to the question. If we cut taxes, this is economics 101. The people, you people, all of us get to keep our money. And we will either invest it or spend it, and it will find its way into the economy where it's supposed to be, as opposed to having the artificial control of the state reach in, take the money, and redistribute it to areas that we might not want it to be or where it might not be most functional. There's a plethora of examples. When the state gets involved, it kind of damages things. So I would much rather see people keep their money. Back, 100 years ago, the income tax was like 1%, and it keeps going up and up and up. If you just let us keep our money, it'll all work its way right back into the economy, like I said, where it's supposed to be. So again, yes is the answer to that.
Thank you. Michelle?
So I think tax cuts are possible, yes. But where does the additional money come that we need as we have inflation? It's going to come from taxes in other areas or fees in other areas. We all have to kind of see that as just fact, I would say, because as a local elected official, I know we have a finite amount of money to work with. Our budget on the schools this year is $120 million, but we have increased needs within our schools for our students. We have increased needs for fixed costs. So much of our budgets are fixed costs within at the municipality level. We have bond repayments, education, we have public safety, and so many things that have to be paid for. So where do we pay for them, and how do we pay for them when we cut our taxes? That's a question for everybody, right? So it's gonna come from somewhere else. We have other tax places or fees, as I mentioned. It's hard in Plymouth for us to hold on to our teachers. That's a perfect example of why cutting our taxes is difficult. But we need to look at ways to be creative with the funds that we have, which is something that we've been in the Plymouth schools really creative. We've saved $6 million with solar with solar energy. We're looking at ways to potentially bring in our own buses to save money within the school system. We're looking at how do we cut the costs, and potentially we've been working with our state reps for probably the whole 13 years I've been on the committee trying to get additional aid. So for me, I get that there are tax cuts needed, but it's always going to kind of move to another place. We're always, as we continue to have increased needs, I'm not sure how we pay for everything, and we make sure that our society runs, that our public safety gets the money and the resources they need for training as we continue to evolve. But so, it'd be great if we can, but I think we just need to know that it'll come from somewhere else.
Thank you. Jesse?
I mean, absolutely, yes, we can pass taxes. If you can implement them, you can reduce them. It's a very simple thing here. I always give this example, so if you've already heard this, there's a lot of wasteful spending up at the State House, a tremendous amount. So this is a easy to visualize this. We spend $700,000 right around on a mile of road in Massachusetts. The same exact mile of road in New Hampshire is approximately $250,000. Where is that money? Those are the things that need to be looked at. And now you can go down the list, but that's something that you see every single day as you're driving down the road. And put that in your head. That's down the list that we can cut and reduce spending. So yes, we can absolutely reduce taxes. One of the things I would propose is you reduce the sales tax from 6.25 to 5%. We already have a sales tax holiday. Maybe let's have 2 or 3 to spur businesses. We have gas tax, that's 24 cents right now. Why can't we drop that down to 16 cents? But we keep talking about implementing new taxes for everything, and I think that's used a lot of time as fear that we're going to lose money for our public safety, and that's just not true. Those are those most important things, and you have to cut out the spending and the redundancies within the state. So yes, 100% we can reduce taxes and still keep our services.
Thank you. The next question, the order is Michelle, followed by Jesse, Kathy, and Eric. Massachusetts law allows for an abortion for any reason up to 24 weeks of pregnancy and other circumstances. Should this law be changed, and how? Michelle.
Absolutely not. I support a woman's right to choose. It's reproductive right. It's not just a reproductive right, it's health care. You know, we think we've all had enough people who we are close to who have had atopic pregnancies, or there's been something that has caused them that they would die, or the fetus wasn't viable. And so for me, I wouldn't change anything. I would continue to stand up for a woman's right to choose. It's something that I've always been passionate about, and it's a continuum of care. You have IVF, we've got abortion, you've got birth control. There's so many things that go in with that we need to make sure that women have the control and the autonomy over their bodies. And so for me, I will always support a woman's right to choose, and I will stand up for that.
Thank you. Jesse.
Yes, and as we heard earlier, in Massachusetts, this has been codified already. So it's already law, it's already legal in Massachusetts, and nothing's going to change. Nothing. Not with any of us nothing will change. So this topic it's more of a national issue because there are a lot of other states, but the state of Massachusetts right now, it is law and nothing's changing at all.
Thank you. Kathy.
This is a hot topic, and it is still discussed on the doors when we've knocked doors, quite frequently, actually. Not only from the women that answer the doors, but the men that answer the doors, too, that are concerned about their wives, concerned about their daughters. Abortion is a continuum of health care. Abortion is health care. We can't take that away from women. There's so many instances where the woman's life, the mother's life is in danger. And if we take that away, then we lose the mother, we could lose the fetus, we could lose the child. So abortion is health care, I believe, and it's just a continuum of health care, and a woman can choose her own health care.
Thank you. Eric.
I would like to start by saying that I believe the Dobbs decision, which overturned the Roe v. Wade decision, was a huge win for the Constitution of the United States of America. Because what it did is rightly put this issue back into the several states. People complained oftentimes that it was in the hands of 9 people in black robes. Multiply that by 50 now. And like Jesse said, this is codified here in Massachusetts. There's nothing to worry about here in Massachusetts. But, from a constitutional aspect, I think it was a huge win. It's a very divisive topic. We have a lot of other issues going on. I don't think it's something we should be, I think this would be an unpopular opinion in this room, but I think it's something that we really shouldn't have to focus on in Massachusetts because it is codified. I'm not saying that to diminish how anybody feels about this, but we have some serious issues here. Some other serious issues like affordability. We have power issues. We have highway issues. We have transparency issues at the State House. This place, it's like we're in a dumpster fire. And this one issue keeps being brought up time and time again. And I will leave you with this. I'm definitely pro-choice, but I am pro-life as well. If something happens with my daughter, I will probably take her to get the health care she needs, without question. And I think that's something, it's not an easy decision for any woman to have to make. And, after that, it's between you and God.
Thank you. Can't believe it. We're at closing statements, and I want you to all make your closing statement. So we're going to start with Eric, and then Kathy, Michelle, and Jesse. And please hold your applause until they have all made their closing statement, so I don't get too confused here. Okay, Eric.
So thank you for having us tonight. Again, I'm a fiercely independent individual. That's why I've chosen to live my life on the ocean for the most part. What brought me in here is my eyes were opened with the regulations that keep dropping on the people by and large, from unelected bureaucrats who serve in alphabet soup agencies. These people were never intended to be lawmakers. But, from the federal level on down, our legislatures have abdicated their responsibilities to these agencies. And these unelected bureaucrats, they do not answer to the public. They do not answer to the voter. That's what opened my eyes. Now, for me, I'm an outsider to this is a new game for me. I'm an outsider, but I understand how the economy works. I understand how our government is supposed to work. This fourth leg of our government, the administrative bureaucracy, needs to be challenged, and we've had a great start with the Chevron deference decision, which should remove some of their, overreach, if you will. And, I guess I'll leave you with this. If you all like what's going on and the trajectory we're on, keep voting for the same people. If you want somebody who can go in and shake it up, to be a change agent, and to get some fresh ideas in there that maybe reflect the Constitution and maybe a little bit of the Bible and morals and values, that means you have to go out and vote for that change. I can be that change agent. Thank you for your time, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Kathy?
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to the League for being, and everyone that's been here tonight. So this year especially, I can understand how some people may want to tune out the election of all the news that's spinning around us, but it is so important to stay tuned in. And I appreciate that all of you are here, and I appreciate everyone that's home watching. I'm honored to have served as your state representative for 6 years, and it's been in the honor of my life to serve you. I'm proud to have brought experience, dedication, and a commitment to bipartisanship to my work. I take the responsibility to ensure our district needs are met seriously. This year alone, I secured over $1.6 million in funding for critical areas such as public safety, infrastructure, water quality, health services, veteran support, and small businesses. I was proud to be recognized as Legislator of the Year by the Mass Association of School Committees and the Mass Mental Health Counselors. Before being elected into this role, I spent years in public service on the Kingston Select Board, the Affordable Housing Trust, and the Recreation Commission. I understand the challenges towns face and how local and state government need to work together. I also understand that the rhetoric, broad brushes, and assumptions don't work on Beacon Hill. What works is building relationships, bipartisanships, meeting in the middle, listening, communicating effectively, and caring about the people I serve. Those are some of my strong suits. I know how much time this job demands, and I'm committed to this as my first priority. My constituents know that I'm accessible and will leave no stone unturned to find resources. I would love to serve for you another term, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Right. Thank you, Mary, and to the League of Women Voters and Local Scene for hosting and broadcasting this forum tonight, and for everyone who came out. As your next state representative for the 1st Plymouth District, I am dedicated to this as my full-time job. I learned a strong work ethic from my hard-working union member parents. I'll work harder than anyone to bring back resources to our district. I grew up here and went through the Plymouth Public Schools, and after graduation went to college in Virginia. I moved back here for graduate school and started to get involved in our community. I have a true passion for service and a commitment to and deep understanding of Plymouth. That is why I have been deeply involved in our community for 15 years. It's been an honor to be on the school committee for the last 13 years and the last 2 as the chair. I know how local government works, and I have been advocating for the people of Plymouth on the town and state level for a long time. I'm committed to the people of the 1st Plymouth District. That's why Team Badger has knocked on over 6,000 doors and made countless phone calls, so I can hear personally the perspective of our residents. I'm running for state representative to ensure that people of all ages can remain and thrive here in Plymouth. During my time on the school committee, I've led important initiatives, built consensus, and coalition to accomplish goals with people of diverse thoughts and beliefs. I'm committed to working across the aisle to represent everyone. And as your next representative, my priorities are in affordable housing, bringing resources back to our community, collaborating and creating sustainable economic development. I'm running to be your voice. I will always listen and engage in conversation. And if elected, it'll be an honor to serve and advocate for the 1st Plymouth District. I look forward to working on behalf of and with all of you. I humbly ask for your vote on or before November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse?
It's been a privilege to be here
Don't
tonight to discuss
trick
the
me
important
like that.
issues facing the residents of the 1st Plymouth District. A big thank you to everyone for your attendance tonight, and thank you to League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and to everyone up here, Representative LaNatra, Mr. Meschino, and Ms. Badger for their attendance. My name is Jesse Brown, your Republican nominee to be your state representative in the 1st Plymouth District. I proudly served our country in the United States Marine Corps, and to all of our veterans out there, thank you for your service. Through hard work, my business partner and I created a successful telecommunications construction business that has kept people employed for almost 18 years. Co-founded a nonprofit that has helped countless veterans in need, and a proud father of a beautiful 17-year-old daughter. I'm 47 years old and a 25-year resident of Plymouth, residing in our home in Manomet. Member of the Marine Corps League and Veterans of Foreign Wars, I proudly sat on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and a prior member of the Massachusetts Labor and Workforce Development Board. To everyone in here tonight, I just want to be crystal clear. My commitment is to represent the interests of our residents and advocate tirelessly for the 1st Plymouth District. There are so many issues that affect our community and families: affordability, sky-high cost of living, migrant crisis that's created unsustainable costs, lack of transparency in our own state government. We need to foster economic growth in Plymouth while protecting our natural resources. We need to give our first responders the tools and support they need and deserve. Plain and simple, we need to have a safe, affordable, and prosperous community. As your state representative for the 1st Plymouth District, you will have a person that will be effective, focused, reliable, and will work on the solutions for the issues we face. Our pledge, your interest and well-being will always come first. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for your vote on or before November 5th.
Thank you very much. Please. Thank you. Our next panel is the County Commissioner panel. And the answer order for this question is Rhonda, followed by Greg, Jared, and Anthony. And the first question is, what makes you the best candidate for this job? Rhonda. Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the question. Push your button. Your microphone.
Thank you. I missed that piece of instructions, but thank you very much. Glad to see everybody here tonight. And yeah, so I first would have to begin by saying that I think it's my experience. You know, I have both public and private sector experience. I worked as the chief financial officer for my family small welding and engineering company in Hanover, as well as having state, local, and county experience. I am a former state representative. I took over my late husband's seat when he passed away as state representative, so the total together combined of years of service as state representative has been over 16 years. So as well as that, I am a current member of the Hanover Select Board, vice chair and past chair of the board, going on to my second term. I am appointed member to the Plymouth County Advisory Board. That's we are the legislative branch to the Plymouth County Commissioners. I am also the Government Affairs Officer at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office, where I work on matters related to public safety. And I also have gained a lot of experience at each level of government, obviously. So I would just like to say I am actually have a unique ability to work across both sides of the aisle. I'm doing that now as a Democrat. I work in a Republican administration, and I do that on behalf of public safety and matters relative to that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Greg.
Thank you, Mary. I got the memo. My experience too, I guess, has been pretty public. I served as a city councilor in the city of Quincy at the turn of the century. I was also a Pembroke selectman before. I've just finished 12 years as a county commissioner. I've been appointed to the Board of Governors of Quincy College and just retired after serving 12 years as their chairman. We have a Plymouth campus right here. I've been a town administrator, and I'm currently the Drake town manager way up on the northern border of Massachusetts. Basically, how I got involved with this is because I was involved in my community. I've got 4 children, raised them in the city of Quincy and the town of Pembroke. They're now adult children, and they've moved on. And I find that public service is something that I've always been subject to. I grew up in the housing development in the city of Quincy. My parents worked hard. My father was a veteran, but he was a pipe fitter that worked out in Alaska. And we grew up in veterans preference housing, and I always felt the need to give back to my community, and that's how it started. And then you look at my career in terms of what I've been able to do, I get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people, and I think that has lent itself to what we've done in the county since I took office 12 years ago.
Thank you. Jared?
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to League of Women Voters, as well as the local scene and those who are still here. What uniquely qualifies me is 4 months after my 18th birthday, I was appointed to my school building committee. And for the last 4 years, I've had the privilege of serving as a county commissioner. I have unique experiences in both the public and private sector. I formerly worked in the State House for a state senator, as well as for a state representative. And in those roles, as well as my role as a commissioner and other elected and appointed roles I've held, both in Rockland, I am now a resident of Plymouth, has taught me candidly how to work bipartisanly with folks, and we've done that, and the results speak for themselves here in Plymouth County. We've worked together to execute and deliver over nearly $200 million in COVID relief funds. We've done that without fanfare, but we've done that through hard work and dedication. We've respected the taxpayer's dollar. We've administered that for less than 1%, and we delivered more funds more quickly than like-sized communities outside Plymouth County received. That experience in these last 4 years has taught me how hard work, dedication, and commitment to doing the right thing is going to carry forward into the future. I'm running for re-election, seeking your vote and your support to continue that good work of collaboration. We don't make much noise anymore as a commission. Our meetings are pretty routine, but we're getting a lot of work done, and we've expanded so many programs that candidly, for the last 4 years, I have been able to work hard to execute, whether it be mobile integrated health or a food security program. I currently work in the private sector in sales, in real estate and insurance, and that is what qualifies me most to serve another term as your Plymouth County Commissioner.
Thank you. Anthony?
Thanks, Mary. Thanks to the League. Anthony O'Brien, candidate for County Commissioner. I'm a dad of two boys, 11 years old and 13 years old, who are my heart. I'm a military veteran, and since my military service, I've spent 20 years in government, in government and nonprofit boards, helping in my community. I'm supported by hundreds of community leaders throughout the county and throughout the state. I'm running because I think the job can be done better. A re-election campaign is, the primary issue is the incumbent's accountability, and the person that holds them accountable is the challenger. I'm not a career politician, and I want better government with a priority for the people, not for self. Some of the problems in the last 12 years have been Plymouth County Commissioners is a part-time position. They're supposed to attend 1 or 2 meetings per month. They're called the county selectmen, and yet the salaries have increased from $7,500 to $33,000. That's a problem requiring a solution. Another problem here in Plymouth is the woodlot. It was handled very unprofessionally. Please see the Plymouth Political Forum Facebook page. I've written an article about that very recently. Family members have been hired by the Plymouth County Commissioners. We all know that's a problem. Regionalization's a problem and not enough, as well as increasing revenue and increasing transparency. A common joke in the county is, what do they do? And that's not public service leadership. Anthony O'Brien will solve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. For this question, the order will be Jared, Anthony, Greg, and Rhonda. The role and responsibilities of the Plymouth County Commissioners are not well understood by voters. Please tell us some of the primary roles and responsibility you believe are the most important. Jared.
Thank you, Mary. So the roles and responsibilities of a county commissioner is to serve as the executive branch policy-making board of the county. As Ms. Nyman said in her opening, we have a legislative branch, which is our advisory board. We propose a budget, they approve it, and we act on that. Over the last several years, thanks to our leadership, we've been able to expand on a lot of regional services and a lot of regional programs, which has necessitated my attendance and my colleagues' attendance at more than just 2 meetings per month. I mentioned in my opening the creation of Mobile Integrated Health, which is a pilot program that's been launched in Plymouth County. It's unique to Massachusetts. We're working on that. We, of course, have our 4-H extension program. We have begun a collaboration with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, the South Shore Community Action Council, the Marion Institute, and the Old Colony Planning Council to take on potential food insecurity. We've purchased community rating system credits for communities that are in flood zones. So the commissioners and the county itself has been doing a lot of work. I occasionally say it's the unfun stuff of government, but it is important roles. I omitted the parking department, which has saved communities hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last several years. This is on top of our record-breaking management of the Plymouth County Other Post-Employment Benefit Trust Fund, which for folks at home, in here, that is a multi-billion-dollar liability that's hanging over the heads of many communities. We received just this evening an annualized rate of return of 25%, which is blowing away the national average. Again, we're doing this without fanfare, but we're doing this because we're keeping our heads down, we're doing the work, and we're expanding these regional programs, and that is the role of a county commissioner.
Anthony.
The county commissioners are a 3-person board. It is part-time. They certainly can exaggerate and misrepresent how much work they do. The county government has not changed very much in the last 12 years. Some of the things that you're hearing are very, very small. The budget somehow has increased from 10 million to 12 million, even though there's been very little change. One thing that's definitely changed is the salaries of the county commissioners. And the question is, how does that happen? And why did that happen? Because, again, they are county selectmen. They have a register of deeds who is an executive and does not need a lot of executive oversight. They have a treasurer who does a large majority of the county government work. And, of course, they have an administrator. And the treasurer and the administrator have a few small departments, okay, that they manage. The county commissioners don't do much else. The regionalization is being overstated. It has not changed very much in the last few years. And it is not professional leadership in public service to overstate things and exaggerate things. If we could get into more details, I'd gladly do that. But because I'm the challenger, I've got to hold them accountable, because if not, who will? Thank you.
Thank you. Greg.
Well, I think Jared covered most of what we do in Rhonda as well. I would have to disagree with my opponent with respect to who we are as a county. I'd like you all to look in Google April 27th, 2020 through May 1st, 2020. That's the time when the Plymouth County Commissioners decided to take on the CARES Act. We were the only county to do it. And if you look at how much opposition we had from the governor's office on that decision, you'll see the difference of who we are now and who we were then. There was a tremendous amount of pressure on us not to take the money. They said we didn't have the ability to do it. We didn't have the intellectual property. They said that they could deliver the services better. Well, fast forward, we're now into the ARPA program, and we have 4 other counties that joined us on ARPA. We delivered $97 million under CARES, and we made sure there were no clawback provisions to any of our communities. We were told that we couldn't do it. We were lauded by Congress with the lowest rate of cost to administer per million, at 1%. By contrast, the Commonwealth had a 37% overhead to administer the money. What that did for you and our member communities is we gave more money out, and we didn't give a dime back. We did not give one dime back. So from there, We built upon the collaboration with our sister counties, and now we're all overseeing the ARPA program. And again, similar blueprint, we are returning more money to our member communities than ever was before. So I'm got the yellow light here, but I'll gladly expand upon what Plymouth County is now and what it was 12 years ago.
Thank you. Rhonda?
If you could just repeat the question.
Sure. The roles and responsibilities of the Plymouth County Commissioners are not well understood by voters. Please tell us of the primary roles and responsibilities you believe are most important.
Well, county government has been around for 200 to 300 years. They certainly have been a resource for communities within the county, while at the same time serving as a custodian for the Plymouth County Retirement Fund, which really covers the municipalities' employees throughout the county. I think an important role is that they offer group insurance plan available to all municipalities for their workers. And they are the owner and operator of various county properties throughout Plymouth County. Obviously, there are 27 municipalities. There are 3 commissioners that really are a service-based commission. They should be reaching out to all the 26 towns in the city of Brockton and providing services for municipalities that are struggling. You know, there's things like transportation. I know as a select board member in my town of Hanover, we're dealing with a transfer station situation right now that we've been faced with. And so there's things like that. There's PFAS in our waters. You know, there's obviously we need more public safety measures as well. So those are the kinds of things that the Plymouth County Commissioners should be doing, and they are doing. But I think that as someone that could bring some more federal funding to the commission to help them do that, and I think I have that ability to do that as a former state representative and a current member of the Hanover Select Board.
Thank you. The order for the next question will be Greg, followed by Rhonda, Anthony, and Jared. The lease on the woodlot in Plymouth has received increasing attention. Please explain the current proposals under consideration and how you will advocate for the best proposal. What are the financial implications for all towns, especially Plymouth? Greg.
So with respect to that, the county had this asset, it's 100 acres, that we purchased 2 properties to allow it to be entered into. So there's an entrance and an egress on the property. It sits there vacant, so what we did was we put out an RFP, and there were 7 respondents. 6 of them were housing folks, and the last one was an entertainment company that was looking at the idea of horse racing. So when we unveiled the bid opening, the commissioners chose the horse racing folks because they weren't putting in horse racing. They were asking for permission to do due diligence. And they pay the county $150,000 a year to do their due diligence. When we had the public hearing on that, we adjourned abruptly in the middle of the meeting when there was a group of people from the town of Plymouth that wanted to be heard, and they only had 1 representative. We didn't have an opportunity to speak to them, so I had, on my own, went down and spoke at the request of Ken Tavares to give the people an opportunity to speak on the matter. At the time, I was living in the town of Plymouth, and I was a resident, and you can look it up on the Old Colony Memorial on how it was reported, and it ended up as a ballot question in a referendum, and it was voted down. So there was remaining time on the due diligence portion. Boston South Properties is the person that is doing their due diligence. They're paying us $150,000. At the end of the contract that we have with them, they're going to have to make a decision. And no decision will be made in a vacuum, and no decision will be made without Plymouth being involved. In fact, the town of Plymouth is directly involved in negotiations on trying to do something that will produce some sort of quality of life and revenue-generating use of that property, and we're doing it in collaboration with the town of Plymouth.
Thank you. Rhonda.
So I'm not a commissioner, I'm just an advisory board member, and certainly, so I do know about the woodlot. I do know how Plymouth feels about the racetrack that wanted to go into the woodlot there, so certainly that wouldn't be something that I would probably recommend. And I think we would all know a lot more about the woodlot if we could have the county commissioners' meetings would be televised. I think residents and everybody else, if they could be televised and put up on the website so that we can learn a little bit more about that, that's great. I do read the meeting minutes and try to educate myself about what's going on, but certainly I would like to see, and I think as housing is really the number one issue for most folks, and it needs to be like affordable housing for folks. We did it in Hanover. We did a mixed-use type of thing over at the Hanover Mall. It's now called Hanover Crossings, where we have mixed-use residential and housing. So I think that might be something that I think would be a great fix for there. I know there's been talk about a convention center and things like that, but certainly I would think that first and foremost, you would have to have the town of Plymouth at the table before we start making any decisions about what we should do with the woodlot.
Anthony?
Well, I definitely agree with Rhonda's last comment about Plymouth being at the table, but very importantly, the citizens of Plymouth should be at the table. The woodlot's a huge problem, and as Greg said, the citizens came to the meeting and they asked to speak and were told, no, you can't speak. Then the commissioners arranged for their next meeting, and a protest group was going to be legally protest and was going to come to the meeting, and quietly and on short notice, the commissioners changed the meeting from Plymouth to Brockton. Then the folks put it on the ballot, and 88% were opposed to the development. I've studied this, and I've talked to folks in town, including community leaders, and as the ballot said, they are opposed to it. The commissioners signed a lease, and the county's getting revenue for it, and as far as we know, nothing's going on. We haven't heard any updates at all. Again, you can check the Facebook page, Political Forum in Plymouth, and I have called for rescinding the lease, start over. Get a committee that includes the folks and keep the best interest of the citizens of Plymouth and what they want as a top priority. Good government for the people, do the job right, but you can't be disrespectful to the people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jared?
Thank you, Mary. Let me say unequivocally, and let me correct a misconception. There will be no horse track, no casino or gambling at the woodlot. That was taken off the table over a year and a half ago. I made that presentation before a Plymouth Select Board meeting. I've made that presentation in the media, and that is still true today. As it relates to the public's input, Mass General Law, Chapter 34 required us to hold, and we did hold, a public hearing on May 16th, 2022. The meeting was from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We heard from dozens of residents in the town of Plymouth, and we acted in a candid, not so unironically, people keep saying that we didn't listen to the residents of Plymouth. We did listen to them. There is no horse track on the table. So that is gone. We also put out an RFP seeking entertainment. We didn't want to burden Plymouth Public Schools with more housing. We didn't want to burden the town with more housing. As Commissioner Hanley said, we are in a due diligence phase with them, and we are continuing to allow them the opportunity to create a great project that will benefit everybody in the town of Plymouth. As it relates to, again, community input, I live in that neighborhood. I live around the corner from that woodlot in Plymouth. I am very invested in what happens at that woodlot and making sure that it is in the best interest of the town of Plymouth. We have worked with the town, and I will remind folks not to go too far down memory lane. The select board at the time voted to support that. We did bring them in. There was a meeting amongst the select board members and the legislative delegation right in the beginning. We have had multiple conversations with town leaders and residents, and I'm proud of the fact that, unlike a lot of government entities, we did listen to the people of Plymouth, and we did act on that. They said no horse track, there will be no horse track.
Thank you. The order for the next question will be Anthony, followed by Jared, Rhonda, and Greg. County Commissioners' meetings are not accessible to the working public. Would you support live public access to the meetings and posting the recordings on the county website? Anthony.
Wow, 100%. It's 2024. it almost seems like it's another kind of secret thing. We don't want folks knowing what's going on. The popular question, if not joke, is who are they and what do they do? We actually, the Democrats had a debate before the primary, and they talked about this issue. How come it's not recorded? How come it's not live streamed, et cetera? And there was agreement amongst them. That was 2 months ago. You could have started doing this 2 months ago, but that's the kind of responsiveness that you get here. And it's not good. When I was a county commissioner from 2009 to 13, I didn't run for re-election because I had a couple toddlers. We recorded the meetings, audio recording. Technology's improved since then. Commissioners have talked about, and this is like our 5th forum, they've talked about, well, I'm talking to contractors and it's a big job, and no. You delegate it to the administrator, the full-time person who's doing a good job and making a nice salary. You delegate it to them, or just do it on your phone, guys. Just do it on your phone. You can videotape it. You can post it. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Jared?
Thank you, Mary. When I was first elected, one of the things that I made a push for and my colleagues supported was a set meeting schedule and a set meeting time. So we meet every other Thursday. Sometimes it's the first, third, and fifth. Sometimes the second and fourth at 5:30 p.m. It was important to me that we met after normal working hours. As it relates to recording the meetings, for those who have been attending our meetings, which have been lightly attended, although I will commend at least 3 of us are at our meetings, would know that we have been recording our meetings for the last several months. And those meetings have been recorded, and those meetings will be uploaded to YouTube. As a matter of fact, this evening, we worked on getting tonight's meeting that we had previously before coming here onto YouTube, and you should expect to see that tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to the folks out there viewing us. We have nothing to hide. The only explanation I give, it's not an excuse, but it is an explanation, is that communities have PEG access stations where, like the local scene for Plymouth and others, that record and broadcast their meetings. When I was elected, this isn't a contractor, this was asking any semblance of a local access station, can you come in and record us and put us up? And some of them just ignored me, others said, if you record it, we may broadcast it. Well, we are recording it now. It's going to be online, and I will be spending the weekend compiling every local access channel's email and informing them that our commissioner meetings are online. They are free to be downloaded and rebroadcast on their local access stations, and I'm looking forward to seeing folks view us, participate. But you're always welcome to come to our meetings. We're subject to the open meeting law like every other government entity in Massachusetts. So I'm proud of the fact that we've been able, using COVID money, to purchase our own video equipment that before we were not availed of, to be able to get those meetings recorded and online.
Thank you. Rhonda?
Thank you, Mary. And as a candidate for county commissioner, I'm already making a difference because this is one of my campaign promises that I have been working on since February. And this was, actually, I've been attending the meetings. I've asked that, everybody else is doing their meetings public and video. It's simple to do. It's free. All you need is a YouTube account. You have the equipment. We have asked, I don't have my notes with me, but I know this has been several months. Commissioner Hanley made the motion about asking to have these televised and recorded and put up on the website. There was a motion, and it was concurred that they would do it. It is still yet not done. I don't know why it's not that difficult. You have the resources there. You just alluded to it, that you have the capability, the technological resources that you need to do it, but it's yet to be done. You want to engage people. People wonder why and ask what Plymouth County Commission is doing. This would be a great first step to just start televising those. So I've been working on this, advocating. It's one of my priorities. I'm going to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that it gets done. And I'm glad to see that you're finally listening and you're going to do something about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Yep, well, I can't improve much more on the story other than, I have been asking for it, and finally it got voted in July. Tonight was the first meeting where it actually happened, where it was live. We have recorded the meetings since, waiting for them to be uploaded. we use multimedia, we use Facebook, we make our announcements through WATD. We don't get the newspaper reporters anymore. We don't even get an ATD reporter unless there's something big on the agenda. With respect to county government, it's pretty boring, but when it comes to a big issue, the transparency is definitely needed. We were doing recording the meetings for transcription purposes, but not for release, because that's just the way the votes went. So I'm glad we are in a space where we're now doing it. I've asked for it. The chairman has listened, and we are now going live. So moving forward, I think that'll be the SOP for the county. We have nothing to hide. In fact, we have a lot to talk about in a positive light. And the fact that people still don't know what we do after what we've done with ARPA, I think we've been to every single community at least 7 to 8 times in the last 8 years per year, delivering the checks. The media gets the information. We could do a better job at promoting some of our projects. Like tonight, we got the update on Plymouth County OPEB Trust, which is the retirement benefits for healthcare for seniors. We're outperforming our partners at the state. And there's a lot to talk about, and I'm glad to talk about it, and I can't wait for us to have more opportunity to program and hopefully someday get in the studio. I know John Buckley, as part of his programming, is Impact TV, and he does his own program. And I think we all participate with Kevin Tachi, WATD, and all our local cable to allow us. And lastly, just before, when I left the town of Pembroke as selectman, we became PAC TV members, and I know that our broadcasts have gone to them. So thank you for the opportunity to answer that question.
Thank you. It's time for closing remarks already. So the order for closing remarks will be Jared, followed by Anthony, Rhonda, and Greg.
Well, I want to thank you, Mary, and the Plymouth Area League of Women Voters for having us this evening. For those of you who stuck around, thank you. It was a little more crowded when we first got here. And to those watching at home, especially my Nana and Papa, thank you all so much. For the last 3.5 years, I've had the honor and privilege of serving as your county commissioner, and for the last 1.5 years, serving as chairman. The results speak for themselves. Plymouth County delivered more federal relief more quickly and more effectively and efficiently, with 50% more dollars than communities outside of Plymouth County. At the conclusion of our management of ARPA and CARES, we will have delivered nearly $200 million to the inhabitants of Plymouth County. This has been done all without fanfare, but through sheer hard work and sincere effort to engage in good governance, the kind that we were elected to do. When I was first elected, I was happy to begin the process of increasing transparency. I'm pleased that we have been able to continue to increase our transparency, and we will continue to be an accessible board. We've launched many new programs, such as Mobile Integrated Health, which has already provided health care to hundreds of people in their homes. With feedback from Select Board members, we've launched the Pond Management Resource Center, and we are partnering with stakeholders to create a new Food Security Council, thanks to a grant we secured from the state. We have brought in nearly $1 million through the federal burn grant program, delivering those funds directly to qualifying communities, Plymouth being one of them. Our parking department has saved communities hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of this while we continue our record-setting management of PCOT with a year-to-date return on investment of 25% and pre-funding our retirement and our incredible 4-H program. Simply put, Plymouth County continues to be the absolute best bang for your buck, with a budget that has stayed the same for well over a decade, and I'm looking forward to continuing the great work we have begun. I'm Jared Valanzola, and I ask for your vote on or before November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony.
Thanks again, everybody. Thanks to the league. Problems require solutions, and 12 years of problems persist. The county commissioner's salaries are outrageous. They're considered the county selectmen. They meet once or twice per month. And they make $33,000. The selectmen have, as many of you know, 2 or more meetings per week, and their salary is 0. If you do the math real quick, for the county commissioners, with a meeting being an hour plus or minus, it's about $1,500 per hour. Other problems, you've heard it tonight: transparency, misrepresentation, spin, exaggerations, and we're working on it. folks, it's time to hire new people because the folks aren't doing the job. The way the woodlot went down and the way the citizens in Plymouth were treated was absolutely disrespectful. And they have my apology for that, and I'll if I'm lucky enough to be county commissioner, I'm going to fix that problem. And we're going to form a committee, including the folks. I don't know what it's going to be, but let's ask the folks. I'm Anthony O'Brien. I've got a personal website, which is my campaign website. I've got a Facebook page. You can see my kids on there. Fortunately, they got their mom's good looks. And I have a LinkedIn page that has my entire resume on it. Smooth-talking career politicians is not what Plymouth County needs. Do the job and do it right. Please don't rehire poor performance. If you're looking for a hard-working leader, as I proved throughout my careers, please consider Anthony O'Brien. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda.
Thank you to the Plymouth Area League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum, and to Mary for moderating. Good evening. My name is Rhonda Nyman. My passion for public service first began in 2011 when I was elected as state representative for the 5th Plymouth District, and then in 2020 when I was elected to the Select Board in my hometown of Hanover, where I currently serve as vice chair. In that role, I was appointed as a member of the Plymouth County Advisory Board and as a delegate to the Old Colony Planning Council in Brockton. I am proud to have been born and raised in Plymouth County, where I have lived, worked, and raised my family in my hometown of Hanover for over 50 years. In addition to being a mom and serving as a state representative, I worked as the chief financial officer for a small family-owned business for over 20 years. This taught me about the challenges small businesses face and showed me how businesses can help communities like ours. As a county commissioner, I will always work towards providing a welcoming environment for small businesses in Plymouth County because they are the backbone of our communities. As state representative, I work to bring meaningful relief back to our communities to improve the quality of life for our residents. I am proud to have helped build a much-needed senior center in the town of Rockland, brought GATRA to Hanover, providing transportation services to our seniors and people with disabilities, and have been part of a team to build 2 veterans memorials in both Hanover and Rockland. When I was elected to the Hanover Select Board in May of 2020, I was immediately charged with helping my community during the historic COVID pandemic. Working with other dedicated town officials, we were able to overcome the unprecedented challenges while still maintaining a strong future for the town of Hanover. As chair and vice chair of the Select Board, I was proud to have played a role in reinstating the Pledge of Allegiance at all Select Board meetings. In my current role at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office, I work closely with local, state, and federal officials throughout the county, providing support and guidance regarding all public safety matters. This, along with my role in the Plymouth County Advisory Board, has allowed me to fully understand the current challenges facing this county.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary, and thank you to the Plymouth Area tired. League of Women Voters. I'm sunsetting. About 12 years ago, I took on this job, and I was full of vim and vigor. And when I walked through the door, I was told that we had a $750,000 structural deficit in the year that we're in, and that there was a county referendum that was posed as to whether or not there should be county government. We were being sued by the retirement board for non-payment of benefits. And we had no money because we weren't allowed to have a stabilization account. So I had run that year on county trash and county solar. And I was able to procure those 2 programs, one that would have given us $1 million for 20 years, and another that would have given us $10 million for 20 years plus tipping fees. However, when we went to execute those contracts, we found out that the transfer station in Plymouth was contaminated, and someone had to clean it, so DEP wouldn't let us move forward. The other was the hookup it took to get on the national grid was delayed, and the folks decided not to move forward. So then, move forward, the county had worked its way out of its financial troubles, and it wasn't until we adopted CARES that it made a difference. We were a regional entity. We weren't well-liked until we had the courage to take it on. And as I stated earlier, we were able to do it at the lowest cost in the country. So for folks to not understand who we are now with ARPA and what we deliver, and Tonight, we had an amazing collaboration, first time ever, where Old Colony Planning Council and the county came together to collaborate on future projects that was unheard of before we took on CARES and ARPA. I think we've earned the respect of our communities. I think we deserve an opportunity to continue the work moving forward. We have so many collaborations. And again, I want to thank you for this forum. It's wonderful to work with civility tonight, and I want to thank you, Mary, for being that cop. I don't want you taking your glasses off and going after me with your superpowers, so I just wanted to thank you, though, for keeping this all about business and not personalities.
All the candidates for being here tonight and for running for public office. We'll have a few words in closing from the league.
So hopefully tonight's forum has been informative and will help you to exercise your right to vote in the upcoming general election to be held on November 5th. We are grateful to all participants, the audience, our moderator, and she did a great job, didn't she? So the last thing we'd ask for you to do is, we don't want you to stay quiet anymore. We want you to complete the surveys that were left in seats. Does anybody have any questions about calendar for registering to vote or mail-in voting or anything? Okay. Not these guys, because they're interested in here. Thank you very much.